Hi, Robin.
Hi.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you so
because your movie, Four Trails, have received the 10 recommended films of the 31st Hong Kong Film Critics Society Awards. So, how do you feel?
I mean, a bit surprised. Surprised in the way that, you know, when we set off to start this film, we had no idea of where the film could go, where it could take us. We as a production team, you know, just my brother and myself, and the film is involved, the run is involved. We just wanted to make, you know, a really good film, challenge ourselves. You know, it was my first feature film, and we just wanted to make something that we would be proud of. And yeah, we wanted to get the film distributed, but I have no connections in the industry. So it's kind of like, how can we get it distributed and where can it get distributed? And so when we finally got in contact with Edco, and Edco were like, yeah, we love the film, we want to help you get it out there. That's sort of when, you know, things started to feel like, okay, this is real, we've got it out there. And, you know, we did our first press screening, and I was thinking, oh no, you know, the critics are going to come out and they're going to say the film is terrible, and the opposite happened. Everyone loved the film. We had such a good response, and you know, now I'm standing here holding, you know, top recommended film. I'm surprised because I just never knew that this was possible. Whether this was could be reality. So, you know, in some ways it means so much, because all that hard work that we all put in for the last 3 years of trying to make it, you know, it means a lot. People, they like the film, they recommended the film. To be top 10 in Hong Kong is just like, you know, unreal, surreal. Yeah.
What is the different feelings between when you the first time here that you get the award and today you join the presentation?
It's, you know, it's surreal. You never expect something like this to happen, especially when you're talking about a documentary which is quite niche. It's about trail running. It's, you know, we were told the whole time in the build-up to releasing the film that it's a small niche film with a niche audience. And so you know, we always thought as filmmakers that it's, you know, it's more than that. It's a story that's bigger than just trail running, and it can relate to everyone. So I think, you know, when you're told it for the first time, you know, it's kind of, you're like, yeah, I told you so. Oh, sorry. I don't know if there's a difference or not. I'm still kind of finding this whole world just completely new to me. So I didn't really have connections in the film world before. I didn't know, you know, distribution companies. I didn't know any of this. I just wanted to make a film that I could be proud of. And so now, when you are receiving these awards and nominations and whatever it may be, it's just like you just all of a sudden being put into this new world with new people and new everything, and you're just like, is this real? You got to pinch yourself sometimes. And so I just think it's maybe the feeling of getting told and putting this in my hands isn't different. There's no change. It's still just one big emotion of, you know, just immense satisfaction and gratification for everyone out there who's actually helped us to get to this point.
Why do you think that the audience will move by your work?
So I think this story it's about a ultra marathon, you know, 300 Ks across the entire of Hong Kong, essentially. But it's more than just a extreme event. It's, you know, when I interview the runners, they're pushing themselves to the limit, but they always say it's about the journey. It's not about the result. And so that was a big message that I wanted to get across in the film, is that it, you know, a lot of people might look at it and they might be looking at the leaders, the people in the front, and thinking, okay, I just want to know who can do it the fastest. But that was never really a goal. I wanted to follow everyone from the fastest all the way to people who are just getting across the finish line, because their stories are just as emotional and impactful, because they're doing something which, you know, is beyond their physical capability, pushing their physical capabilities. And it's those stories which I think resonate with the people that watch it, because they can maybe see themselves in one of the characters, whether it's seeing themselves in Salomon because they themselves are an engineer and they like to plan everything, or seeing themselves in Sarah. Sarah, she tried the first time and she didn't succeed. She tried again and she got a little bit further, but she didn't succeed. And then she tried the third time and she did succeed. And it's that whole story of perseverance, trying harder, never giving up. Even if you fail, that's not a bad thing. And so I think the audience resonates with that because there's always someone that they're watching which they can relate to themselves.
Can you share what is the hardest part during the production?
What's the hardest part? I mean, I could give you 5, I could give you 10.
Sure.
But I will stick to the filming part. So the filming, we had to do so much planning prior to the event, because in something like this, there is no take 2. You can't, they're not going to run over Time O'Shan and I'll be like, oh, I'm really sorry, I messed up the camera. Could you go back up Time O'Shan and run it again? They're not going to do this. So you have one chance to get it right. And so we did so much planning beforehand. I hiked most of the trails themselves to know in every single location what the best sort of technique would be, what the best camera would be, what, am I going to use a drone? Am I going to use a gimbal? Am I going to use handheld? So when the actual event came around, then you didn't have to think about that at the same time. If they're going to arrive at a certain point, this is how I'm going to film. And I can tell that to the filmmakers themselves. Because, we had 12 of us over the 3 days. So I can tell them, okay, you're here. And when you're here, this is the best thing that I think that you should do. Of course, I gave them flexibility because you never know what can happen. So, some unexpected thing happens, they can capture it. So then during the event, for me at least, and for a few of us, we sort of went through the same experience as the runners as well. So while we weren't running 300 kilometers, we still only had 2 to 3 hours sleep over the 3 days. So I slept on the first day in the back of my car. And the second day I went across on the ferry with a few of the runners. And as soon as they left, I just fell asleep in front of the green post box for a few hours. So the difficulty at that stage is, yes, you've made all of these plans, but because so many things, don't go to plan, then you have to start thinking, okay, how can we adapt the filmmaking? How do we change positions? But you're doing that on like little sleep. And so you're second guessing yourself. You're like, okay, we originally wanted to go up Lantau Peak, but because the runners are here and here, is that a good idea anymore? And you just can't, it's so hard to process this information in your head and choose the right thing to do. So that became such a big challenge. I remember on the final evening, so now we're into the 3rd night of little sleep, and there is footage of Will going up Sunset Peak. And before he arrived, in the film, he actually says, if you're so tired, then find somewhere uncomfortable to sleep, because you'll fall asleep for 5 minutes, and then you'll wake up again because you're so uncomfortable that you're not going to sleep for too long. I was waiting for Will to come and meet me on Sunset Peak, but I was exhausted. So I just lay down, exactly what he said. I just lay down in the middle of the trail and set my alarm for 5 minutes. And so I would fall asleep and then wake up to my alarm and check on the GPS where Will is. And it's like, okay, he still has 10 more minutes. So I went back to sleep on the trail and just did that and repeat until Will finally arrived. So the footage that you see in the film is essentially Will sleepwalking and me as the cameraman sleepwalking with him. We went up Sunset Peak together. He almost bumped into my camera. Sometimes I'm like trying to find where the record button is. And so you're filming this sport and this challenge, with the same sort of sleep deprivation that they're going through. And, that just becomes incredibly challenging.
Hong Kong Film Awards is coming to town, and you have 2 nominations this year. Yeah. So do you have confidence to have this award?
I mean, I have 0 expectations is how I'm looking at it. Even standing here today, getting this critic award, top 10, is still beyond anything that I could have imagined when I started. So now we have been nominated, or I've been nominated for Best New Director and Best Film Editing. that is, again, that's just like, I can't believe that that is even happening. So to even think about winning one of those two is, again, another level higher of like, if this happens, then, you know, what an amazing achievement, not just for me, but for everyone involved. So my expectations, I'm keeping my feet on the ground, not expecting too much, but I'm just going to go there and enjoy the experience, and, you know, whatever happens, happens.
Okay, so any plannings for the next project?
Not really, no. My regular work is a filmmaker, and I go on various projects. The projects can be anything from commercials, music videos, branded content, events, anything like that. And Four Trails was my first attempt at a feature-length film. And I had, you know, maybe naively had no idea the extent of how difficult a film like this is to make. And it took me 3 years to do, and so much energy went into it, so much sacrifices. You know, similar to the runners, making this film was my own personal Four Trails. And I never really wanted to commit to a new project before sort of knowing what would happen with Four Trails. You know, is all this energy that I'm putting into this film, is it worth it in a way? Yes, I'm super passionate about it, but if I'm going to dedicate another 3 years to another film, I want to, in a way, know, you know, I want to be just as passionate about that next film as I will about Four Trails, because it's just such a huge commitment. So I don't have any new film or new major project, because I feel like it's such a huge commitment that you need to know if it's right for you. You need to have that project needs to be as passionate as what I had for Four Trails. So I don't have any major project, but, you know, maybe in my smaller projects here and there, you know, there's a few of those.
Can you share a few words to the audience of Four Trails?
Yes, I mean, the audience of Four Trails is probably the most, you know, the most important people. Without you guys coming and watching this film, you know, we would still be, you know, back where we were. And the response has just been so amazing. Most weekends that I've been in Hong Kong, I've been attending Q&A sessions and speaking to people. And that's the biggest reward that you can get from making a film, is listening to people giving you their reactions, how they feel. And some people have told me some incredible stories about how the way the film has affected them, you know. And that's something which I didn't know could happen, was possible. I know I wanted to make a film which people would enjoy, but having a film which it's truly touched them, and it's motivated them in their own lives, and it's just changed perspectives, and they've come to me and they've spoken to me and all of this stuff. I mean, there's no reward better than that. So for all the fans that have turned up to watch Four Trails, I can't thank you enough. And I hope you continue supporting us. And if I'm at any of the Q&A sessions, please come say hi and take a photo.